Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
And top of the morning to you and welcome to Newsline. We're live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo, as always. And this morning, it's a much anticipated event in the parliamentary calendar at least, and that's the budget. And there'll be a lot of expectation amongst the people, of course, because needless to say, the cost of living has skyrocketed, and the public will be waiting to see what is in store for them. And there'll be the usual culprits, the taxes on alcohol and tobacco and so on, but the public will be looking for some wider benefits. And it's a legitimate expectation in our country because, of course, we are just around the corner from potentially 3 elections or 3 types of elections. And, but ahead of all that, to discuss the state of the law and how independent the law or the judicial system in Sri Lanka is, we've got with us a wonderful guest. He's the head of law at the Open University of Sri Lanka, and he's right here with me. Mr. Raja Gunaratna, very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you.
Do I call you professor, or do I call you doctor, or do I
just say Raja, that's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Raja. There you go. Now then, tell me, we seem to have plenty of laws in this country. And when we observe things, we find that when the police, let's just take the police for here, when the police are left alone, they do generally a great job. The intelligence, the military intelligence, they even brought down KP, the principal procurer for Prabhakaran. Right? We even managed to bring him down. So everything seems to work until the police officer gets a call, and usually from a politician. Then this two-way street where the law is working nicely erodes. It either becomes a one-way street or it becomes a no-way street. In short, when there's interference, the police and the other authorities, nobody's performing. What has happened to that? Why is this happening? Why is it that the police, in some cases, just sit and wait until somebody from upstairs says, move left, so he moves left. Move right, and he goes right. It's a joke. Why?
Well, actually, in countries like ours, what we always see is the political interference is rampant in almost all spheres of public life, especially when you take the case of law enforcement authorities. And their function always been, of course, interfered by the high political authorities. Because, you know, I'm also teaching to police officers in Qatar and elsewhere as well, in the police training college as well. So I know that the police officers are basically, of course, law-abiding, and they have the sense of enforcing the law properly. But of course, the moment, as you said rightly, that a politician interferes and orders, then of course they have no help. They become really, you know, helpless, because there's no one to safeguard them if they do not adhere to the instruction or whatever the order is given by the politician. So this is actually why, from bottom to top, almost all, you know, categories of police officers have this problem. So if you take other countries, like developed countries, of course the police officers of course conduct their functions quite independently, to a greater degree of independence. But in countries like ours, where we have always this, we see always this problem happening, as you said, of course. Then, you know, so it is nothing but the political interference, political intervention, political authorization, politicization of these bodies have been the cause for all this problem.
Now, Mr. Raja, you're in a unique position. You're a lecturer in law, and the future of our country passes, the sections of the future of our country passes through your hands, through your mind. In your lectures, how do you address this issue with the lawyers of tomorrow?
Very often, I of course take my students in my lectures within the limits of our subject. We talk about these problems always, of course. Now, you can't talk about law, teach law, without talking about the institution that make laws, the people in this institution, their behavior, their conduct, and how they make laws and all kinds of stuff. So therefore, we do what we call constructive criticism with our students of the laws made by these politicians, legislators, and the way these legislators or lawmakers behave themselves, and all those kinds of things we discuss with our students under constitutional law, under criminal law, maybe under various other legal subjects. So it is in this way actually we try our best to inculcate into the minds of young generation as to how they should become, of course, law-abiding people. And of course, we hope at least the younger generation, younger society will take action against those people who are really behaving as law, breakers of the country, especially the politicians.
And what do you think your students say about all this?
Very often, of course, they are of course very inquisitive. They always ask questions. They always send their cheats. We have about some 100, 200 students in one class. They always, of course, raise hands or stand up and ask questions, or sometimes they say cheats. I have collected all these cheats.
Do you? I've lost for words. But do you detect a sense of defeatism that creeps into these young minds long before they enter the courts?
Well, what you said is to a certain extent is correct. Well, they probably get the idea of defeatism if they get into the very day or week into the practice, because they would see that what we teach in the lecture room or the classroom is totally different from what has been practiced in there.
Yeah.
All right. So there's always corruption going on. There's always manipulation of laws going on. There's always other kinds of bad activities taking place. So that's all happening. But of course, if you give them a very firm foundation of what is good, what is bad, I'm sure that they will not resort into that.
Right. Let me move on a little bit. Okay, Sri Lanka is a country that's it's an emerging economy. I think our GDP is around $3,600 per capita GDP. But in actual fact, even that is a little bit overstated, because that's not a true reflection of what the public earn or their income, because the per capita, this GDP is full of government expenditure as well. So, my point is that especially in the non-urban areas, the access to legal representation would surely be benefited by having a legal aid scheme that actually works properly. Not a little bit here and a little bit there, not at all there, and so on. I'm talking about a system like that is in practice in the UK, for example. The common man doesn't have to think about legal representation, because he knows that if he's in some form of trouble that affects him, there is something called a legal aid system. If you can't pay, you don't earn enough money, and so on, you can rely on that. And it's a full-on service. So what is precluding us in Sri Lanka from developing such a system?
Well, actually, we cannot think of having a similar kind of legal aid mechanism project in Sri Lanka because of our poverty. Because in there, of course, when we compare to economies, UK and ours, of course, we are far, far below. So and also the people who are in need of legal aid is, of course, so much. So that
the numbers
can, of course, afford to all that.
So do we. Our jails have a number of people, more than it should be, where they're in there because they've been convicted, and some of them can't pay the fine. And I'm not I'm not talking drug cases here,
Other petty
other things. Yes. There's this chap who I met who hit his neighbor over some argument, and his fine was 2,500 rupees. He couldn't pay it. The chap's was sent inside. Now, that sort of thing. Why can't we take legal?
Well, actually,
have a legal aid system?
Yeah, that's right. I also agree with you, because there are quite a number of convicted prisoners lying in the prisons who find it difficult to pay these small fines.
Yeah.
As you said, of course, quite hard. Now, the question is, do we have a kind of system where of those people, fines can be paid by the government under a particular scheme?
Yeah.
Well, to my knowledge, at the moment, of course, there's nothing like that. But that should be, of course, introduced in, I'm sure not the drug traffickers or criminals who are involved in drugs and all kind of other vices, social vices, but of course people who are just getting involved in a brawl or kind of stuff, and then, you know, got into the prison because that they couldn't produce enough evidence of witnesses to prove their case and all that, all that. So those type of people, of course, I'm sure that there must be a mechanism where those small fines amounts should be paid by a kind of project. That should be there. And of course, then we will probably be able in this way to reduce the prison population in our country as well.
On Newsline, we encourage our viewers to send your questions in by SMS straight through to 0772 300 305. The number is appearing on your screen about now. And one of the questions that we've already started to receive is, can't the police refuse to take an illegal order from a politician?
Absolutely, they can. Because the police function is governed by two pieces of legislation. One is the Criminal Procedure Code, number 15 of 1979, and also the police ordinance, and also the other police circulars, orders, and all blah, blah. So now, question, as you said, of course, they definitely can. They definitely can stay confined to their legal framework without heeding to the orders given to them by their by the politician. But the question is how courageous our law enforcement officers are, because within the framework of within the structure of the police itself, if the higher ups, right?
Okay, let's put it another way to you, Mr. Raja. Let's just say that a policeman decides to take a tough stance and says, no, I ain't taking your call. What mechanism is there to protect the policeman, to protect his future in the police force, his pension, his promotion, his retirement, his whatever benefits? Is there a strong mechanism that he can rely on? Because, you know, the minute this policeman refuses to accept some order, he'll be probably transferred from Dondra to Kites or to Delft or to wherever it is, you know. Something dreadful like that will happen. Then what happens? That's
very often happens. The question is how strong the police structure from bottom to top and top to bottom to act independently. The legal structure is there to be independent. Is it all right for the IGP to have dinner with a suspect? Well,
this is a hypothetical question.
Yes.
Don't get your things typing now, just hypothetical, all right?
Well, actually, speaking from the point of moral values,
right,
as well as from the point of moral values, actually, you are a suspect. I am the IGP, I am having dinner with you. What is the message that you're going to give to the society? What is the message you're going to give to society? You might say, look here, that he is in my neighborhood, is known to me for a long time, and blah, blah. But that is not actually. When you assume this duty as the IGP or the policeman or the SSP or whatever, and you know that this person is completely involved in a very grave crime, and you're having dinner or breakfast or whatever with that, gives a message to the society, well, look here, we're going to protect them rather than, you know, booking them into law, rather than taking them into custody and enforce law against them. So that's the message that you give.
Quite often, I've seen people who'll take their phones out and say, oh, look, you know, look. And it'll be a photograph of them with a politician, maybe with Mahinda, maybe with the president, maybe with RW, or somebody like that. And it's almost their ID, if you like, to say, oh, this is their carte blanche, their passport to some form of acceptance.
Yes.
And so hopefully the policeman will say, oh, in that case, carry on.
Yeah, well, Mr. Faraz, that is one of the problems that we have in societies like ours, where the mentality, the perception of general public, most of this so-called elite people, the perception, they always try actually to get the undue advantages by showing that they are associating with the higher ups of the government, higher of the police or the whatever, by showing this poor lower level policemen. So they get, of course, scared because they know if they do not do, there's no protection within their
That's
structure.
what I mean.
Within their structure.
What is the protection that they have within their structure?
That has to come from within themselves, from top to bottom, bottom to top. There are laws, there are independent laws to safeguard the independence of the police. Now, of course, we have the independent commission, police commission. But if the members of the commission itself, themselves, of course, have been victimized by the political authority, then what talk of independence you can talk about? So therefore, I think it is the people who are manning these structures, who are manning these institutions, should think about where we stand, what we are bound to do. Are we independent? Are we acting independently? Or are we dependent on the political authorities, political structures? So that's basically, now for example, I must tell you, now I'm a university, head of the department of university, and I get, of course, sometimes letters from political authorities who are responsible for this higher education, letters coming through sometimes the proper channels, sometimes directly to me. But I responded properly saying, no, you can't do that because we have rules and regulation and it's under which that we give these, whatever, they ask for to students.
So how many students have you been forced to accept?
We have about, of course, in our law degree program, about nearly 6,000 students.
How many of them do you think have come there because some politician phoned up and said, can you look?
No, none.
All 6,000?
All 6,000 come on the basis of their performance at the admission test. Merit basis. Once they get enrolled, as of recent, I must tell you this, I've been in the university for more than 27 years. It is from after this government came to power, just within, after this present government came to power, we keep getting letters after letters, about 2 or 3 letters about these kind of things. Never experienced this kind of situation.
Well, asking you to
consider transfer of students from one center to other center and kind of stuff.
Right. In this government. Now then, it brings me nicely to what I want to also ask you, and that is this matter about the Constitutional Council. Good, bad, mediocre? What's your take?
It's so mediocre. Of course, it has now become a politically motivated institution, as I said before as well. You know why? Now, the 19th Amendment of the Constitution established this Constitutional Council with the idea of ensuring independence, accountability in the whole structure of governance.
Yeah, but now there are 10 members, right?
There are 10 members.
So you have the Prime Minister, the Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition, the President, the presidential appointee or the President's choice. Who can that person be? Can it be me? Can it be Weere or Cameron?
Well, if you go through that, of course, composition of the council, you can see, of course.
But who can it be? Can it be anybody?
It can be, of course.
So the President can choose just about anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And then you have 5 who are appointed by the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition.
That's right.
So they have to mutually agree.
They have to mutually agree.
Right.
Out of that 5, 2 should be parliamentarians. 2
parliamentarians. So you technically got 3 people who could be lay people.
The lay people definitely
all
say
right.
so.
And then, of course, you have another MP who is the representative of the other parties.
Other parties and independent groups.
Total 10. I don't see any logic in this. It can't be independent.
It can't be. It is not actually independent.
What's the current consternation? Why is there a bit of consternation about this Constitutional Council? Is it to do with them not giving a reason to the President?
But that's actually one of the controversies. As you know, recently there was certain vacancies arose in higher courts, Court of Appeal and Supreme Court, especially the promotion of judges as President of the Court of Appeal and also as judges of Supreme Court. Now, in this respect, 19th Amendment says that President has to recommend the names to the Constitutional Council, and the Constitutional Council approves. Now, President, of course, has recommended the names. President has recommended the names, I'm sure in accordance with, when you look at the way how it's recommended and who has been recommended, it's quite clear that the President has recommended in line with the guidelines given by the Latimer House Principles, because Latimer House Principle is the principle that was laid down by all Commonwealth countries together in 1998 as to how the balance between the legislature, executive and judicial should be maintained. So according to that principles, I'm sure President has recommended these names, and then to Council, Constitutional Council, without giving any reason whatsoever, has refused to approve those names. And now the question.
So you mean the first citizen of our country, the President, has nominated recommends somebody, and that has been rejected by the Constitutional Council, and they refuse to give him an explanation.
Yes, that's obviously
that's the case. That's the crux.
That's the crux of the matter.
So this President is some sort of non-entity.
Non-entity, that's become non-entity. Of course, this is...
But that's not acceptable.
Yeah, of course, if you look at the entire 19th Amendment, this is the sorry situation that is created. Now, if you look at our constitutions at 1780...
Are you saying the 19th Amendment is no good?
Of course.
What, in all, all of it, or part of it?
It is actually a politically motivated amendment. I will give you one reason, one very good example. Now, this Constitution amendment says that you means people, cannot elect a person as a president more than twice.
Right.
Now, is it okay? Who has the choice to elect a person as a president? The people. If the people has decided to elect a particular person not more than once or twice or thrice or whatever times, then it's up to the people. It's people's sovereignty. Now, you know what happened in countries like Malaysia. Mahathir Mohamad came when he was 90, when he was elected. But there was no other countries.
But he's not the executive, is he?
Well, that's true, but head of the state. Head of the state, right? Head of the state. Now, my question is...
But the other thing is they didn't vote for Dr. Mahathir Mohamad himself. They voted for the party. He's the leader of the party, and therefore he became, by that same argument, Ranil Wickremesinghe is the Prime Minister of this country for the 5th time going now.
Well, that's the case.
And he's lost so many elections.
But Prime Minister in our country is not elected by the people.
That's
right?
Okay. Yeah.
So we're talking about the President elected by the general public, right? So therefore the people have their sovereign right.
But as Citizen Gunaratne, do you not feel that too much of anything is bad news?
Well, there's a saying, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes,
that's fine.
So isn't that one of the reasons why the 2-term limit appeared to be a good thing?
Not at all. Not at all. 2 terms should be compared with certain other provisions also in the 19th Amendment.
Right.
What is the other one? You see now, it says that the President cannot dissolve the Parliament after
so there are some aspects of the...
4.5 years. What is now the full term is 5 years. So until 4.5 years lapses,
so that's
President cannot dissolve.
So the people of the country have, inter alia, they've got stuck with a 4.5-year fixed term Parliament, even though the people were not asked about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's what I'm going to say.
So what you're saying is that if they had had a referendum of the people on whether they want A, the 2-term limit, do they want a fixed term Parliament? Do you want the President to be unable to dissolve Parliament and so on? Had there been a referendum, then it'd be more acceptable. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that would be, of course, a very idealistic, utopian kind of position, because you can't go to people for each and every person.
No,
like
you
this.
can't. But you should.
What I'm
a
saying
fixed term Parliament is essential to ask.
That would be much better had they gone to people and telling their manifestos when they came into power in 2015 to say, look here, these are the things that we are going to introduce into the amendment to the Constitution. So that by telling those things, of course, they should have got the mandate of the people. Now, why I'm saying so is because as a result of these curtailment of restriction placed on these, it is basically the people's right that have been curtailed, that have been restricted. So which is, you can't find it, they have no power, they have no authority to do so. So this is why I'm saying that this amendment is actually a very dangerous piece of legislation. And you won't believe.
But all of them voted for it.
No.
What were they doing? Asleep?
You know why? In making a constitution or in doing amendments to constitution, you have to do it having a very far-sightedness. You have to demonstrate a far-sightedness. You have to demonstrate vision for the country. You have to demonstrate kind of work program for the country. It is not because you want to be in power, your party want to be in power, or you want to make sure that your opponents are not coming into power. These shouldn't be the factor that should be driven in making the amendments. Now, these are the factor that was driven by these people in making this amendment, I must say.
So Citizen Gunaratna would like to see the 19th Amendment binned or the 19th Amendment amended.
No, I must give you a plus point also.
Right. Tell us the plus point.
Yes, of course I must give that. All in all, when you weigh the plus and negatives, yes, it is more negatives than the pluses. So the one plus point I appreciate in this amendment is the introduction of the right to information law. So now right to information being introduced in this one, which is of course something that we need to, of course, for this country. But so that is one of the plus factors, because we doing, as I said at the beginning, I'm not doing here to the media a kind of destructive criticism. I'm doing kind of constructive criticism, so that the legislatures, future legislators and lawmakers, policymakers will understand what the people of this country, people who are involved in educating the younger generation, think about this. That is my perception. Right, so other than those, this has created a kind of situation in the country where it's like that, all these problems that arose during the past few months due to this problem, due to this amendment. Another.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. Another thing is actually this 19th Amendment, Sinhala, English and Tamil versions are totally different in some provisions.
Well, that's fine, because the Sinhalese one is the operative one.
But you can't say like that. You can't say like that. Just of course, according to law, Sinhala prevails. Yeah. But it does not mean you can have in the English version the different translation.
But the English version is merely a translation.
No. It is not merely a translation. It is also certified by the speaker as a postal. The foreigners, those who do not know the Sinhalese language, will read this one. So what is the impression they would get? So therefore,
so that's probably why they trooped into Parliament.
And in law, Mr. Faraz, there's a saying, every dot, every comma, every full stop matters a lot. So every word has to be exactly translated. Now I'll give one example. This 19th Amendment, Sinhalese and Tamil says that the Prime Minister can be removed. By whom is not mentioned. But English translation even doesn't have that version. It doesn't say that Prime Minister can be removed.
But the Supreme Court have ruled on that.
Well, in that case, of course, somebody has to go to Supreme Courts.
But they have done that, haven't they?
Sorry?
They have.
What I'm saying is why this also shows that this piece of legislation is politically motivated. They they prepare this.
How can you say that when the whole of the Parliament voted for it?
Well, you know, Mr. Faraz, how it was done, and what maneuvers, what manipulation went in there. It's quite open to everyone. It's not a secret. They had sessions till late midnight, and most of our lawmakers are asleep. And of course, all the time in daytime also they are sleeping. There's no wonder they are sleeping when it was held in midtime, right, middle of the night. Right. So they just passed it, and they don't know what they were raising hands. And that's how it. Where in the world this kind of affairs has been happened? In the Parliament, in the legislature, supreme lawmaking body.
Right. Last and final question before we finish. As Citizen Gunaratna, what do you want from the budget today?
Well, a budget means actually a statement explaining to the country the expenditure and the income and the fiscal policies, taxation, and blah blah. So
we're running out of time, so you need to.
Okay, yes. So a budget should not be made a political instrument. A budget should not be made a carrot to deceive the people. A budget should not be made a kind of false propagandist document. That's all what I say. It should be visionary driven. It should be made with far-sightedness for the greater benefit of the greater community of the country.
There you go. Let's hope for. Thank you very much, Raja Gunaratna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The head of law from the Open University, Sri Lanka. And thank you very much for watching Newsline. Do remember, starting from 2 o'clock onwards, News First will be bringing you regular updates on television and on radio. So you can tune in, flick your TV on, or tune into the radio, and we'll bring you updates as and when it happens. So that's the way it was on Newsline this morning. Do take care, have an excellent day ahead, and keep watching because we'll be bringing you all the latest news from the budget. Take care. God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz.